Okay, I'm going to run through some adding in standard form questions. I'm going to cover a bunch of adding questions, but really it could be applied towards subtracting as well. The same principles would still apply. In this question, we have 3 lots of 10 to the 5 plus 4 lots of 10 to the 5. Well, if we had 3 times by a plus 4 times by a, that would just equal 3 plus 4 lots of a. It would just equal 7a, because 3 lots of something plus 4 lots of something is just 7 lots of something. And the same thing still applies here. That something is not an a anymore, it's 10 to the 5, but they're both 10 to the 5, so this is pretty simple. We can just add the 3 and the 4 together. This will equal 3 plus 4, 7 lots of 10 to the 5. So this is the easy example because we just have the same thing in terms of the powers on the 10. Therefore we can do 3 plus 4 and we get 7 lots of 10 to the 5. Common mistake here would be to add together 5 and 5 to write 10 to the 10. Don't do that, just keep it as 10 to the 5 for the same reason as we kept it as a in this example rather than doing a plus a. Alright, next question, we're going to step it up a little bit. Again, in this case we have 10 to the 9 and 10 to the 9, so that makes it quite easy. We have 3 plus 8, so we have 11 lots of 10 to the 9. This is not standard form. The reason it's not standard form is because this number here is not between 1 and 10. The way we're going to make it between 1 and 10 is by dividing by 10. So we're going to divide this by 10. To make this fair, to make the overall answer the same, we're going to counteract that by timesing this by 10. I've written times by 10 divided by 10, but really that's just 10 to the 1 and 10 to the 1. Okay, so 11 divided by 10 is 1.1, and 10 to the 9 times by 10 to the 1 is just 10 to the 10. So this is in standard form now, this is the answer, and hopefully you can see why the answer to this, whatever it is, let's call it y, would be equal to the answer to this. Let's call it y again. We divided this by 10 and we times this by 10, so the overall answer will be the same. Okay, in this question, for the first time, we have different powers on the 10. This is 10 to the 7, this is 10 to the 6. Just like when we add fractions together, like if we had 1 over 2 plus 1 over 4, we can't just add these together now because the denominators are different. And so what we do when we add together fractions is we make one of the denominators, well, in this case actually we would make both the denominators equal to 4. So we'd rewrite 1 over 2 as 2 over 4. 1 over 4 is the same, and then we can just add that together. And it's a similar principle in standard form. We're going to make both of these 10 to the 7 or both of these 10 to the 6. Either one is fine. However, just generally speaking, I'd recommend writing both of them as the higher power. In this case it's 10 to the 7, so I'll write this as 5 times by 10 to the 7. That one stays the same. Plus, it's going to be something times 10 to the 7. To go from 10 to the 6 to 10 to the 7, we times it by 10, and therefore to make it fair, to counterbalance it, we have to divide this by 10. So 2 divided by 10 is 0.2. So once again, I hope you see that the answer to 2 times by 10 to the 6 is the same numerically as the answer of 0.2 times by 10 to the 7. And now it's pretty easy because we can just do 5 plus 0.2 to get 5.2 times by 10 to the 7. Again, we can just combine the 5 and the 0.2 together. We can add them together because 10 to the 7 and 10 to the 7 are the same in both cases. Okay, and in this final example, in this case, the powers in the 10 are not just 1 apart, they're actually 2 apart. and this is a more rare question, but the same principle still applies. We just approach it slightly differently. Once again, we have to make both the powers the same, and once again I'm going to recommend that you make both the powers as the higher power. So this will stay as 8 times by 10 to the 5, and this will become something times by 10 to the 5. Well, this time, to go from 10 to the 3 to 10 to the 5, we had to multiply by 10 to the 2, and once again, to counterbalance the overall answer, we have to then divide this 7 by 10 to the 2. So 7 divided by 10 to the 2, or 7 divided by 100, is 0.07. And now that we've got the powers the same, 10 to the 5, 10 to the 5, we can just add together the 8 and the 0.07 to 8.07 times by 10 to the 5, and that's standard form.